You see the little shit going. That's a video.
What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn expects Joshua's camp to be smoother for the Pulev fight. Joshua will defend his belts, of course, against Kubrat Pulev June 20th in London, England. In fact, Andy Ruiz, especially the first time around, Joshua had a tough time getting ready. Ruiz took the first fight on late notice after the original opponent, Jarrell Miller, was pulled from the contest for failing several pre-fight anti-doping tests. Because of Ruiz's unique physical attributes and skill for a heavyweight, Joshua's team had a tough time securing proper sparring partners. Hearn expects a much easier camp. In terms of getting prepared and securing sparring partners for Pulev, it's a lot easier, Hearn said, for Pulev than it is for Ruiz Jr., who was an unorthodox style, Hearn explained to Sky Sports. Ruiz is 6 foot, 19 stones, and very fast. His hand speed and technique is almost unheard of. Pulev more straight up and down, great right hand, technically good from an amateur perspective. He's been around. He has boxed Vladimir Klitschko and has been unbeaten for a long time. It will be easier to determine sparring partners. Now, he said he leaves Joshua's trainer Rob McCracken and AJ to the details. They are a team and they can put a team in place with a view to perfection. Last time they got it spot on with Javi and Angel, great additions. It's a process of improvement, adding things to the team that will get you to the top. AJ is really tough to beat, whether it's be against Pulev, Fury, or Wilder. He is going to take all the big fights. Now, one thing that sticks out at me, we're gonna counterpunch two different things about this article. One, I see the argument in a sense, or I see the excuse. He didn't have a lot of time to specifically prepare for Andy Ruiz. Okay, but I'm going to counterpunch that. Now, if you're going to pick a fighter, you should know who you're fighting. That's one thing. They made a grave mistake. They were going to fight someone bigger, taller, slower, probably with the same chin, because Jarrell Miller is not known to be a chinny guy, right? I mean, even though he did supposedly get stopped and dropped and sent home by Tyson Fury, as we can remember, but you know, that's who they were targeting. That's who they were focused on. So that was their next assignment in front of them until that all went crashing down. Okay. But when they replaced Andy Ruiz, they didn't have enough time to really prepare for him. Okay. So the excuse with this was they didn't have the sparring partners. Okay. They didn't have the sparring partners to get ready for Andy Ruiz, which if you look at his sparring partners he had at that time, you had Joey DeWaco, and I forget the other fellow's name, but he was built nothing like Joey DeWaco. Okay, and Joey DeWaco is a heavy-handed fighter. They are around the same height. Now they got that right. And but hand speed, no. Joey DeWaco could not emulate the hand speed that Andy Ruiz had or has. He couldn't do it. I seen it in his last fight when he fought Frank Sanchez. Okay, and that's honestly the first time I ever seen him fight. You know, he's heavy-handed. He likes to punch over the jab like Ruiz does in similar situations. I think Ruiz has more of a looping punch. You know, he likes to come around the right hand instead of over the right hand like Joey DeWaco throws it. But, you know, I think the real reason for that training camp was, because I know Eddie Hearn is referencing the first time or Anthony Joshua's first loss. They took Andy Ruiz on short notice, and he was a lot better. More than he was, and his style was a lot different than Jarrell Miller. Probably a harder opponent than Jarrell Miller, but I think they wanted a hard opponent. They didn't expect the outcome. Okay, so I think their problem was they should have been more prepared for that particular fighter, which they weren't. You know, just say you didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but because the sparring partners. You know, Joey DeWaco was decent, but no, he couldn't emulate that style. But Joshua didn't even know who he was fighting. He knew nothing of Andy Ruiz. If you're up the night before looking at tapes of Andy Ruiz, that means your team didn't put that together, or they didn't sit down themselves and look at how this guy fights, how fast he is, what's his habits. They didn't do any of that. You can tell. They didn't have time. That's the whole thing. It's not, the sparring partners. Well, you had someone short, Joey DeWaco and Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz said he's 6'2". That dude's 6 foot tall. Unless he's already shrinking, unless he's kind of hunched over. Okay? So I think that's what Eddie's saying. Well, hey, we're going to have it, it's going to be a much smoother training camp. Well, obviously so. Unless Pulev does something stupid and tests positive. And if he tests positive, hey, I think that breaks that mandatory. Or they're going to have to fight the person next in line, right? But yeah, I know the premise, or should I say the synopsis of this. He was trying to make a point like, hey, he's going to be a lot better in the Pulev fight than the Andy Ruiz saga. You know what I mean? Or especially the first fight. But Andy Ruiz was just that guy that had his number that day based on those circumstances of time, change of opponents, and focus. Joshua wasn't focused on this guy. You could tell the way he looked. He wasn't focused on Andy Ruiz. He was just trying to hurry up and get him out of there. Right? So it is what it is. But anyway, we'll see if Eddie Hearn is right. We'll see if it is a smoother training camp, because you don't really know what goes on in training camps. You know what I mean? Let's hope so. Because you want both fighters to come in doing the best and in the best type of condition they can possibly be in. That's all you can really ask for with prize fighting. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Eddie Hearn's comments. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.